Hey, you guys, I had an idea if there is anyone Christian who is a normal Republican Christian and you aren't going to quite run for politics or run for office of anything, but yet you know politics and you're really good at it, and maybe you're good in taking notes or research. Because if I knew politics and the majority of Americans don't, I don't think, because if they did, they wouldn't vote for the people they vote for. If I had the skill, I would do research on every official, like governor, senator, whatever runs, and and the ones that are in office now. And I would find out every single thing they promised, and then I'd investigate and see if they did any of it. And then I would even find out what they have done that's wrong or bad. Okay, because I just Googled it and I found out that we're not part of EU anymore, which is good. Since this month, actually. I don't know what day. But what went on in Gaza all these years? They're not a part of EU, but EU sends them aid and wants a two-state solution, yet they knew all about the treaties and the agreements and every single whatever thing that was agreed upon between Israel and them to stay away from them, like all kinds of things they agreed to. They broke every single one of them. And then they build a bunch of, okay, so I looked up, I was like, how do we know that Iran is getting nuclear stuff, And it's because I forgot why, but so I was wondering, how come is it that we know about Iran's threats through satellites or intel or whatever, yet we don't police the other Middle Eastern states that are overrun with the same shit? And just a few things. So, okay, this kind of relates to America because before you are a president, you usually climb the ladder. And like I've said before, you don't always, if you've never been president before, you don't really know all the top secret stuff until you actually become a president. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess all my promises, I can't really do this because it might be a domino effect. And because of that, and because of that, and that, and that. And then they fill you in on all the grimy dirt that they got their grubby little hands in. And they're like, oh, okay. And plus that, what did I hear lately about the Bushes took the most money from, I think, oh yeah, I heard it on a Christian channel, and I'm not going to say what country but it's a Middle Eastern country that some one of the two funds the colleges and one does not. Our colleges, okay? So I'm not going to tell you which one of those. You probably already know which one, so it's then the other one. Okay, so because he wasn't really going to talk too much about those kinds of things and this is a 7-year-old channel, video. So all these horrible governors over these states, and if we don't know politics very well, so if somebody did, like a Nick Shirley, did some investigating, and then all throughout the year or during election, they can present to us all the details on all the states, on all they've pretended they don't know, or they do know and they don't bring it up. They sweep certain things under the rug, or they've said they're going to do something and they don't. And because honestly, what it boils down to is the people are so shallow. All they want is to make enough money to have fun or this or that. But, they're getting stolen from. If I guess they've never felt the need that it's that important to really, really know the congressmen or whatever they are, senators. But if they really knew how they were getting robbed and, cheated, not out of just money, but out of, like, the California people, the California governor, and the other bad ones, the Virginia lady, horrible. And most of that is from the conspiracies, the lies. They shut us down. There was no resistance. And then they were able to freely speak about all the lies and conspiracies and lies. While and then the mainstream media, they weren't, there's no police on them, so they can't tell any facts at all. Just as long as they don't slander and stuff. But anyway, I'm just thinking, like, I'm glad we're not part of the EU anymore, and all the money we would pay them, yet our presidents knew we were paying them money. And like this Lebanon lady, okay, we were paying them money and it wasn't doing a damn nothing. It was supporting and funding terrorism, not to mention on top of all the bribes, all the paying off. Yeah. So if we were to be contributing to EU right now today still, then over on top of that, they're getting paid off. And Gaza has a beautiful mall that would put any of the American malls to shame. Even in Beverly Hills, probably. And this Lebanon lady, see, if we're not part of the EU, who prevents her from taking bribes? And how do we, or Iran, or Israel's probably still part of the EU, but like they're going to tell the truth to Israel. How in your right mind, as a congressman, senator, and president, vice president, all these political people, how can they in their right mind know all the facts of politics and just go along with that? Because it funds terrorism, and which now is here. Maybe it's our punishment. And it was worldwide. It was always here, but they've risen up because they were given a voice on October 7th and 8th because they're the victims. Insane. And it was allowed to go on. And I heard that's what a revolution starts. It starts with the young people, and then it's got some political moderates that want to counsel the young people and talk them off the cliff, and it ends up they mesh, and then it's all a ball of mess. Anyway, I know it's called geopolitics, but it may as well just be one word, and it's called politics, and it involves the whole world because it always has. I heard somebody say an analogy, something like the world is just a business. Each country is its own store, something like that, its own company, and we're just all doing business with each other, something like that. But I don't know how it went. It was better than that. But it may as well be geopolitics, because Americans need to stop being so shallow, and then they get in stupid. The only ones running are the bad guys, because they're the liars, because they're good at it. It's the only ones. Or they get bought off. They get into office and they get bought off. There's a few Christians running. And hopefully they don't get corrupted, because in the olden days, I think it was called, they get corrupted. They didn't go in there corrupt, but they came out corrupt. And like that Anna Paula girl, lady, whatever her title is, Congress or something, like she said it perfectly one time. She said, we're supposed to be in this not as a career, but for a few years, you put your part in as an American citizen, and then you go home and you be with your family and do your job, get your job, run your. It isn't supposed to be a career thing unless you're rising up. But I don't know. I think the American people are so stupid. We keep, when they run again, and just because they didn't do anything drastically wrong, or like somebody put it, like Rubin Report, he said something like if a president is just, I don't know the term, whatever he said, like they're just no waves. They did no waves. They're just a, hi, Mr. Like everybody likes you guy kind of guy. Don't make any waves. It's congressmen like that and senators. As long as they don't make any waves, then they want to get hired again. They want to get in office again. But the people don't understand that the things behind the scenes that are going on, that they're not making any progress, that it's a managed decline, all this and that. And this geopolitical thing, I can't believe that we always knew how, and now the EU still wants a two-state solution, which the Palestinians don't want, and they never will. They're not even Palestinians. The Gazans don't want it. They want death, okay? So move on. Get off of it. Quit harping on it. Quit trying to force it on terroristic people that don't want it. You guys, I've said before when this all started, that is a country that just is a giant prison for mass murderers. Jack the Ripper on steroids. That's all they are. It's just a giant prison of murderers. Psychopathic, diabolic, pathological mass murderers. That's all they are. Why are we even letting them breathe? I don't know. I mean, I was saying since day one, flatten the place. Kill the cockroaches. Extinguish the rats. And yet, EU and Israel has to. So I hope Reza, and definitely Israel, I hope Iran doesn't give any of their oil to all those Middle Eastern states got their own oil. And Iran, I don't know who they're going to give their oil to, but they sure as hell shouldn't give it to China or Russia, because China and Russia are going to be, whoever. See, I don't know politics, but if I learned them, I would do something like that. I'm just saying, if there's anybody who automatically already knows politics, you just don't want to run for politics, then you could explain it to people on your channel. You could have a channel where you're explaining it, where you're kind of following the governors and senators and whatever their titles are. And you kind of, like my little brother used to keep spiral notebooks of all the baseball players and all their ribbies and other things about them. And he journaled all that. And like spreadsheets or something. And somebody who likes politics, they could do that for the American people. And then they would be like, okay, well, this is a new guy running. We don't know much about him, but I found this out. And he sounds like an okay guy. But if also some people are like good people readers. If you are a good people reader, you would know right off the bat that they're crazy, they're a liar, they're a narcissist, things like that. Like that gay guy that says God is both genders or something like that. Shit like that. And I guess these states like Minnesota, they have way too many Muslims to even win any kind of decent person in their state. I don't know. In California, they're crazy. If they keep Gavin Newsom, he was under the governor before him, which was crooked too. Are these people stupid? They say New Yorkers were stupid in voting for Mondami. So I just wish there was some kind of law that, well, there are laws that if these governors or senators break the laws, they should be thrown out. They're always trying to impeach Trump. Why can't we impeach congressmen when they break the law? And I don't know why we don't do that. Probably because all the bumpers have been removed from Biden and Obama, and we need to get them back in the White House. Anyway, yeah, I just thought of that. And it makes me sick how all those Middle Eastern countries and this Lebanon Christian lady, she's, even if we are not part of the EU, not giving them any of our money anymore, she's still going to get some. Iran is no longer the big dog terror capital. So the money is going to get less and less. So it's choking out all the other countries, yes. But suppose, I don't know, how is Iran going to keep an eye on them? How can anyone who has wanted a two-state solution can be trusted? None of those crazy asses can be trusted, even if nice. I've shared a few clips of a guy, I think, from Saudi Arabia. Well, they all kind of look like they wear that thingy, but you saw that those two shorts, if you saw them, and I think he's from Saudi Arabia because he was talking about Mecca, and they're the ones that have the cube. So, and that's what all these Muslims want. But he, I think, said about a two-state solution. No, he's crazy. I get it. He loves the Jews and he knows the Jews belong there and all of that. But if that guy understands politics, he already knows that Gaza mass murderer psychopaths were breaking every truce, not even the ceasefires. This is way before October 7th. It was just every little thing they disobeyed and broke. They broke every covenant, every agreement, every whatever they made with Israel, every single time. And everybody over there in the Middle East knows that Gaza did that. And they also know that their own countries were overrun. And now Trump is getting it all cleaned up. And what are they going to do? Are they still going to want a Palestinian state with this whole generation of Gazans who are psychopath, mass murderer, Jack the Rippers on steroids, to Jews mostly, then to Christians, even homosexuals, which I don't care about them. But anyone who is friends with something like that, or allies, or even thinks that mentality that Gazans are moral people at all, when it's just a giant prison full of murderers. You guys, I've said that from the beginning of all my comments since October 7th. It's like that. And I was just baffled at everybody giving them food. So I'm glad we're not part of the EU anymore. I'm not quite sure what the United Nations, other than the name, but I've heard it called United Nothing. I don't know the difference between that and NATO. It's like some kind of alliance, but if those geopolitical alliances are breaking covenants and they're turning a blind eye to those Gazans all those years since 1948, breaking covenants, and this is how Iran got away with what they got away with. And I don't know who Iran is going to sell their oil to, because we have our own. And Israel, I think, has their own because they found a big gas thing in the middle of the ocean, didn't they, a few years ago? But and all those Middle Eastern countries already have oil. So they're going to have to be very careful who their friends are. Even the Abrahamic Accords, I don't remember who's a part of them, but I don't think Saudi Arabia is, which has Mecca. And I don't know, you guys. I was just saying, our politics and geopolitics, anyone who turns a blind eye to shit like this, or they coddle and comfort nuts, crazy nut people, ideals just to get liked, they're not trustworthy. You can't trust them because they will sell their soul. If they lower their standards to accommodate crazy, they will steal your money because they have no conscience, they have no integrity, they have no standards, they have no morals, and they have no constitution. They'll just say whatever the people want to hear, whether they do it or not do it. If they do anything, it's usually bad stuff that the people want. So they have no morality standard, and they're going to sell their soul to the devil. And if that's the case, they're damn sure going to cheat and steal your money and cheat on their wives. Yeah. You know, it's like, if it's like a big brothel over there. All those congressmen and whatever, it's always like they got this reputation of whore dogging around. Oh, why do they become politicians? So that they can, it's like a brothel free-for-all, like that Fartwell guy. I mean, I'm not saying they're all like that. I mean, there's real good ones. Really, really good ones. I'm talking about the majority. And it should be the other way around, where the minority are the sickos. Okay? But it's not. It's just a few good men. But hey, I guess that's how it is. I'm just saying, in the last days, if you want to be a laborer, and a laborer for the kingdom, and do stuff, you can do politics and teaching people, not just the teaching, but you got to give us the breakdown on all of them. That would make them so scared too, because they're like, oh, there's this channel. Even if you're tiny, you might encourage somebody else to do it, and they might be better than you, and they get more following. Maybe you'll encourage 10 or 20 or 50, 500 of them to do it, and somebody's going to blow up and be famous and popular. And then these people will think twice before they try to screw stupid Americans over. Okay? And we don't need to be friends with anybody who's not friends with the Jews, period, because whether they have a different religion, and we don't believe Christianity like you do, so we don't da-da-da the Jews like you do, blah, 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 blah. In this anti-Semitic world we live in right now, it's highly dangerous to cohort with anybody who doesn't like or who hates Jews, period. Being friends with people like that is probably going to get you cursed anyway. I mean, bad company corrupts good manners. You don't need to be friends with Jew haters and politicians too. This is America. We are Judeo-Christian. We get our Christianity from the Jews, and we don't need no Jew haters or Muslims in our capital. They don't agree with our Constitution. They will also lie that they're a Christian if they have to. That was what I was telling you. There's some things you may not know that video would tell you. It's not like they would lie that they're Christians. I think it says they would lie that they're okay with Christians or something like that. But it is in their Quran that it's okay. They've got to be a chameleon, in other words. And then there's a way, besides the obvious way that we all know how they take over, there's another different way that I'd never heard of before, how they can take over, and I forgot what it is, but they've done it. Oh. What it is it's getting people to go to Islam, which you've seen. Scads and scads of people are Americans, non-Arab people. Remember in the old days, it was usually black people would become Muslims. And, but anyway, convert. So many converts. And that video will tell you why. Because the Muslims lie to them and lie to them. And they don't even know their own Bible very well. So then they have a Muslim teaching them the Bible about Jesus. And not just about Jesus. Other things. And here they're all, I'm an unhappy Christian, unhappy, lukewarm, backslidden Christian. But I like this Muslim over here. They're so nice. They're the nicest person of any Christian I've ever met. So anyway, if you watch that video on the Islam, you ought to watch it because they're freaking scary. And I bet they're everywhere. They are like, y'all, this world is just going down. You just have to face it and don't cry and don't be sad. Heaven is going to be so fun. And why would you forfeit heaven in the rapture for this garbage? Like in church, they tell you stuff like, well, legalistic churches, they'd be like, you don't want to, well, even God, it's not even legalistic. God says in his Lord's Prayer, and Father, forgive me as I forgive those who, how does it go? There's one verse somewhere it says, if you don't forgive, your Father in heaven won't forgive you. And if he doesn't forgive you, then you probably won't be raptured. So if you haven't forgiven, so church would say, the person you haven't forgiven, are they worth missing the rapture? Maybe some think you could miss heaven. But like this, is this world worth missing the rapture for? Shouldn't you at least try? Like, confess. Say, God, I'm sorry. I'm a shithead. I've been a shithead. Sorry. And I'm going to do better. I'm going to try to do better. Every day I'm going to get a little better. And let go of the place. God is jealous. If you are afraid of a human more than God, like that Lebanese Christian leader lady, if you love this world more than him, like he says, if you don't hate mother, father, sister, that means love less, because Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. I loved him less. And that's mentioned again in Micah or somewhere. So, because it's in Romans, but they quote the Old Testament, you guys. The New Testament is full of the Old Testament. So I'm just saying, would you rather, like, God is jealous. That's what I was saying. God is jealous. So he's jealous if you fear a man. Oh, I'm not going to be liked. I'm going to be rejected. Instead of fearing God and doing the right thing and get rejected, he's jealous. Are you going to be like, I love this world. I don't want to leave. That'll make him jealous. But if you say, Lord, I want to go to heaven. I want heaven. I'm trying to want to go to heaven, like next month or this year or whatever. But God, I don't want to. I want to see my kids grow up. I want to have grandkids. I want to see them get married, blah, 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 blah. Same old, everybody wants. You should at least confess that to him and say, please change the desire of my heart. Give me the desire to want to be raptured, because you can have both. You can have both. but you're going to royally piss him off if you only want one, and that is to stay here. Even mammon he's jealous of. Can't serve both mammon, and mammon doesn't only mean money. So he wants to be number one. And listen, then he lets you have your life. He lets you have your life because you got a lot of responsibilities, just like he lets you have 90% of your money. And then you give him 10. And yet you're worried about the 10%. Oh my gosh. What a tightwad. It's his money. He doesn't need your money. He wants you to trust him. He wants you to be unselfish. So, and plus that Paul needed money. In the Bible, Jesus needed money. When you gotta pay for the priests in the temple, they didn't work. The people had to give them the bread and the fat and the this and the money. Yeah, because their job was to be a priest. Preachers, that's their job, to be a preacher. You got to pay for it. So, all right, I guess that's all. And yeah, but this is horrible bad. I don't think it can be turned around, but we have to fight off evil until the end. But you got to don't make God jealous, because he stands afar off from the proud, which is similar to covetousness, which you're coveting your life here, and you're coveting not wanting to go, and you love him less instead of being here less. And he stands afar off from the proud, period. He says it. How can you get raptured if he's standing afar off from you? How much more will you not get raptured? Okay. And judgment begins at the house of God. How much more the sinner and the publican? But I also like the verse that says prostitutes and sinners will enter in to the kingdom of God, into heaven, more than the publicans and, wait a minute, more than those Pharisees and hypocrites. Of course, not a hypocrite. And a Pharisee would be the bad ones that Jesus said, you're of your father the devil. The good Pharisees were like Paul. He was a Christian and he was a Pharisee. So there are some bad Pharisees and some good Pharisees. And so, yeah. All right. Well, God bless you guys. And maybe somebody will want to be a YouTuber on stats of all of the United States. Maybe they've already got something like that, but I have never really looked into it. But maybe it already exists, but I don't know if they critique them, like as far as investigate all they've done and not done and all the smoke they blow up your ass. And it'd be funny if they gave us percentages of who blows the most smoke and who has gotten the most done in relation to what really needs to be done, because that's a lot of what a lot of them do. They do all this penny ante shit and a few important things, and then they think they're so great. When no, they should have been doing something really serious, like I said before about the church. If the church just keeps mopping up the superficial overflow, yet they're not dealing with the root. Like we were never dealing with the root of Iran. And if some of these congressmen are not dealing with the root of whatever a problem would be, but they're only just mopping up the superficial, and they look good and talk good and act good and smell good, and we think they're good and they're not. It would be nice if somebody knew how to give us a breakdown on every single one of them, because they're voting right now. They're doing early voting right now. And I got to go vote. But I'll probably vote straight Republican, but still, there's going to be a few choices. All right, well, God bless you guys. Bye.